Welcome back. You're still watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition, and to our weekly feature we head now, where we unpack the week's top stories. And to help us discuss this, I'm now joined by Professor Kidibone Paro, who is a governance expert from the Northwest University. And in studio, we are joined by Mr. Ditshego from Ditshego Media, and of course, a media strategist. And a little bit later on, hopefully, we'll be joined as well by Nelson Mandela University's Professor Nzigilelo Breakfast as we unpack the big stories of the week. What stood out for you, particularly in the world of politics, and some international relations stories also coming to the fore? Send us a WhatsApp on 072-110-5584 or give us a call on 010-594-6010. Gentlemen, good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us. Right on the back of this blood moon, we get into what has been, one would argue, an incredibly interesting week for South African politics. Deborah, just from your perspective as a media professional, someone who looks at messaging really, really closely, I think a really great place to start with you would be, what do you make of Floyd Shivambu announcing Afrika Mayibuye Movement Party? He is the president. I don't think anyone is too surprised by that, but also we're able to see that logo and much contention about the Mayibuye logo.
Yeah, so I know Mr. Floyd Shivambu from Wits University. And I saw him being involved in student politics at a very young age. So a lot of people have been introduced to him later as somebody who was more of a support structure, as a think tank to Julius Malema of the EFF. And he did a great job in terms of assisting them in developing their policies, their outlook in terms of the various issues. And so he's very strong in terms of the content that he brings. But I think a lot of people are not aware that he's also strong from a leadership perspective, because he's been seen in the background of Julius Malema. Now, what this does is it gives us a global perspective. We need to look at our politics globally. I think it's a cause for concern where we have more identity politics of individual identities rather than looking at how do we capacitate these political parties with more people who can strengthen their structures. The last thing we want to see is every single strong personality starting a political party, because of that fragmentation can create a result that a lot of people are not looking forward to seeing.
Yeah. What do you make of the logo, though? I mean, some contention on whether or not it looks anything like any other political parties without being too direct.
So a lot of people, you know, when I was doing my master's, there was a claim that the logo doesn't have a big impact in terms of people utilizing your services. But I think it is important. That's my own perspective, that I think it's important that you look into the design of your logo. You know, you see a lot of similarities between the hand holding the spear and other logos, which for me it's a bit concerning. I would want them to go back to the drawing board, think about what they stand for, look at what differentiates themselves, and create a logo that is unique to their identity.
Yeah, I mean the map of Africa, the fist holding a spear. And then there's the star and the coloring. What a moment of contention. But Prof, let's bring you in here. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. We expected to see that Floyd Shivambu was going to launch Mayibuye Movement Party. If you were to throw the bones of what they're going to be able to achieve, and the messaging that he brings that is different to the political landscape, if at all.
Look, Naledi, I'm not sure about the messaging that Floyd is carrying at the moment, but I think he is taking a very bold step and he's proving some of us very wrong, because we never really thought after his departure from the EFF and the MK party, that he would take this bull by its horn and decide to start his own political party. And this is because he knows very well that the political environment is fully saturated at the moment in South Africa, and many political parties in this past general elections have actually been swept away completely. So he's taken a very strong and very bold decision, and by and large, why I think this is even a much more bigger risk is his support base will have to come from both the EFF and the MK party, by and large. So if he cannot eat out of those two parties, I think he's going to struggle quite a bit.
I wonder, though, if there is opportunity for him to expand that base to other constituencies. So if we go back to what it is that differentiates him, I almost think about the example of, and we're actually going to get into Limpopo politics in a moment, Prof, but a discussion around some leaders within ANC Limpopo, for instance, stepping away. This week we had a conversation with Boy Mamabolo, for instance, who said he's leaving the ANC and starting his own party, but having challenges with the IEC. Has said your color scheme looks too similar to that of the ANC. Nelson Mandela, as a figure of the ANC, cannot be a prominent sort of figure of your party. Is he possibly going to run into some of those challenges of distinction when speaking to the electorate?
Is possible, because if you look at his logo, the ANC and even the EFF and the MK party, you know, there are a lot of similarities. And I think maybe the IEC will also itself will need to go to the drawing board and say, are we not confusing the electorates if we continue to perpetuate this? But I think what will be even more important for him is to carve his niche in South Africa broadly, because you see the current ideological stance that he is pushing for. It's also the same that there's a left in the ANC, the SACP, and we saw the SACP did not do well in the current by-elections that were held in Sekhukhune, and the MK party. So their ideological stance in itself has not, since post-1994, offered any strong alternative or even threat to the ANC or to any party from the right. So the left politics in South Africa, by and large, has not been very successful, except maybe you can argue that the EFF and the MK party took this to a completely different level. But we're not sure if that was not really the peak, because they also, as my colleague in the studio said, had to do a lot to do with personalities. And so it was a personality of the Julius Malema, and of course the personality of Jacob Zuma. But I'm not sure if Floyd can leverage on any of those affiliations and show us that he can garner much more support.
Yeah, well, we wait and see. And Deborah, you were talking about the issue of personalities, and then we go to a prominent political party, and that being the ANC. One of the figures, depending on which province you are in, a few figures tend to stand out, certainly in Limpopo, that being that of chairperson of the ANC, Stan Mathabatha. He attempts to step aside. That matter is referred back to the Limpopo PEC, the mother body, saying, no, we don't accept you're stepping aside as chairperson of the ANC. I wonder if from a PR point of view, this is good sort of imaging for the party. Does this look like we are unified, that we're tidying up, that this is a renewal, that we're dealing with fragmentation?
No. So when you look at Stanley Mathabatha, he has a very long struggle history. He's a political heavyweight, and he has a very substantive stronghold in Limpopo. Now, it is a big danger for the ANC, for him to move away from the leadership structures of the ANC. If you look at Limpopo, it's one of the strongholds of the ANC alongside the Eastern Cape. And the ANC cannot afford, leading up to the local government elections, to have such fragmentations rearing their ugly head. And so it is understandable why the ANC has rejected his resignation. But I think from a branding perspective, from an organizational structure perspective, it was important that the ANC should have had a communications campaign to ensure that the fractions and all of the issues that are there are healed, so that you don't have these issues coming up. And this is just one. We don't know what else is coming up in the Northwest. Other things can happen. And the ANC has already experienced a lot of disintegration. So this is not something that the ANC can afford. Yeah,
this is going to be interesting because obviously, and again, if you go into the various regions, you're going to see some of these power struggles really starting to bubble up. Prof. Pako, let me come back to you on this one. Just your political perspective on The chairperson of the ANC in Limpopo says, I'm stepping aside. The ANC says, no, we'll take the matter back to the PEC in Limpopo. We're not quite accepting of that. Is this good for Stan Mathabatha or not?
I think what he's saying is quite correct. I want to agree with him by and large. The ANC is in trouble in many respects at this point in time. And remember, we are preparing for the 2026 local government elections, and so they need to do everything in their power to maintain their dominance, especially in provinces like Limpopo, where they have a stronghold. And we saw, I think it was last week, the by-elections, that they really garnered a very strong support in one of their by-election outcome there. So to have Stan Mathabatha at this particular point in time resigning indeed would be a huge blow, because it will confuse the electorate on what direction the ANC is taking, and that can actually be a bit opportunist, give some opportunity to the to the rival party. So I think probably the ANC is trying to buy time at this point in time, so that they find a way of making sure that he is going to lead the campaigns in the run-up to the local government elections next year.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll continue with, of course, looking at highlights of the top stories over the past 7 days. One of them, of course, being now we know that the Madlanga Commission looking into graft and corruption in the police is going to take place from the 17th of September. That was after we heard that postponement, expecting it to start on the 1st of September, to take place. So now we're set for the 17th of September. What is it that we need to get right with that process and the preparations are concerned? And we also saw this week the Deputy Police Commissioner, General Shadrack Sbiya and Fanny Masemola facing off in court. We'll talk about that on the other side of this. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition, and we continue with our weekly feature where we unpack the week's top stories. Keen to get your thoughts as well, and certainly what took your attention over the past week. Give us a call on 010-594-6010 or send us a WhatsApp on 072-110-5584. Always keen to get your thoughts on what you're hoping to see in the days that come and what you've observed in the week that's passed. Also this week, we continue to watch the outcomes after Mkwanazi's explosive allegations in July. And I mean, what a roller coaster ride that has been. One of the things that we saw coming out of that was the essential placement of the Deputy National Commissioner on special leave. He's challenged that in court, wanting to go back to work, in saying that procedurally Fanny Masemola has no right to remove him from his post. Really, really interesting. I wonder what you make of having watched that, because one of the key questions has been, what would it even look like if he were to get his job back, right? The legal representatives of Masemola, for instance, arguing that it just would not be a decent working environment with him being part of it. But seemingly Shadrack Sbiya fighting for his life and his name.
Yeah, so looking at this, you've got a lot of drama happening. There are things that are happening in parallel. You've got a commission of inquiry that is going to take place from the 17th of September. You've got a parliamentary inquiry looking into these matters. And then you have a possible disciplinary inquiry. The disciplinary inquiry hasn't really bolted yet. But a lot of things are happening, and then you have public discourse. Now, from my perspective, I'm looking outside and looking at this and saying, what does this mean for South Africa? Because we've got the corruption perception index, and South Africa is ranked quite lowly there. It's around 82 out of 180 countries. And it looks at our perception in terms of what business people think, investors, what citizens think across the globe about corruption in South Africa. And that impacts our attractiveness as an investment destination. It impacts also, the tourism. It has a widespread impact. But also on the positive side, we've had commissions of inquiry across the globe, like after the incident in 1991, where Rodney King in the United States was subject to police brutality by the by the law enforcement in the United States, there was the Christopher Commission, which unraveled a lot of corruption within the LAPD, the Los Angeles Police Department. And that helped them with bringing in structural changes, to the police force. It also created accountability where there were a lot of cases that came out of that, and people were prosecuted and convicted of various crimes. You have examples in Ireland, you have examples in Australia with the Royal Commission, which helped with structural changes to their legal system. And it really assisted us, looking from outside in to those countries to say that they're fixing it. But later on, you still have the issue of George Floyd. There's a lot of police brutality that still happens. So the question is, how are we going to make sure that this commission, puts a stop to a lot of the corruption that was reported by General Mkhwanazi and a lot of people who are complaining, about the criminal justice system in South Africa. What is going to be different here? Yeah,
and there are so many questions, really, that one of the things that we've heard is that the evidence that what we're going to be hearing in this commission is going to be a lot of ugly truths. That's what we heard as well from the acting police commissioner. But let's take some calls. Sanele is in Mnambiti. Sanele, good evening. Thank you so much for calling.
My sister Naledi, how are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you? Thank you for calling.
Thank you so much, and greeting to all your panelists. Thanks so much. Hey, my sister Naledi, your show. Ngiyithanda ngale ndlela yesimanje.
Ngiyabonga bhutam.
Uqhubeka ubafaka uswazi njalo mabeze lapho.
Ngizozama bhutam, ngiyabonga. Thank you.
Yeah, my sister, to your panelists, I just having just one question about about the Limpopo provincial chairperson. His resignation letter, then I heard that the ANC have rejected it. But now, what about the image of the ANC on the allegation that whether they rejected that letter, but the allegation stands, and it's proof that it really, because I'm having just on his resignation letter, there are two words that I'm afraid of. They said that unethical ANC. That what images it gives to the ANC, and lastly, on that issue of Mayibuye Afrika. Seriously, I think that after some hard, very difficult work, I think their Floyd had made a mistake. That Emily is really is an EFF actually, so he can. I don't know. It's very dangerous. Even if IEC can approve it, but it doesn't give any much support to him, because it's like that he's still having some war with an EFF, not with what he's saying as the name of Mayibuye Afrika.
Sure. Okay, strong points there, Sanele. Thank you so much for calling in, sir. Sanele making some points there around the resignation of Stan Mathabatha stepping aside as chairperson of the ANC in Limpopo, and talking about the words that he used in that letter. And you'd remember some of those words. I'm trying to find just what it was that he said. He talked about needing to protect his reputation. There it is. To uphold my reputation and integrity, I cannot stand aloof to such unethical and un-ANC tendencies occurring under my leadership. And Sanele saying those words still were shared. What does that do to how the public views the party? But we watch that closely. They were, of course, earlier saying these issues should have been ironed out internally. But let's take a look at a few WhatsApps that have come in from our viewers as well. Anonymous says, what stood out this week, the expectation of Floyd's followers in his new party, which is likely to flop and gives Julius a reason to celebrate. Okay, Anonymous, thanks for that. Duelo in Kimberley says, good evening, Naledi. Boy Mama Bolo also opening a political party without a composition of a structure. And he said that the political party that he's opening is called Born to Win. This is after the IEC denied him the opportunity to name his party Nelson Mandela for president. Very interesting. Zagiti Msani says, my top story this week was the election of the National Teachers Union leadership. The top 7 leadership was elected on the 5th of September at Birchwood OR Tambo Conference Center. Well, good to see structures being set up there, Zagiti. Thank you so much for that. Prof, let's bring you in. And I want to stay with the issue of the Madlanga Commission, because we've gotten quite a lot done. we've got a date now. The 17th of September is when we'll see this commission coming up. But also over the past week, Prof, this is what we saw. The announcement that the 121 dockets were being sent to the political killings task team in KZN. Then some fracas in the run-up to this week about whether or not the contention that was brought up by the acting police commissioner is seen as political interference from the minister. Now we're hearing that there are copies at the commission and the originals will stay with the political killings task team. The statement released by the minister alongside the National Police Commissioner, is this clear messaging and encouraging that we'll see some of the sort of resolution that there was even citing examples that we've seen from abroad?
Naledi, this is complex. If there's anything that we have ever seen as a country, you will remember the issue of our policing has started quite a long time ago. We had an issue in the, I think around 2007, 2008, when Vusi Pikoli, who was at the point the director for the National Prosecuting Authority, the NPA, wanted to charge the former police commissioner, Jackie Silevi then, and the Tabombeki, who was the president at the time, refusing that he shouldn't be charging the commissioner and then eventually suspending Vusi Pikoli. And so we see that the rot in the police has not been dealt with, because since then we've seen commissions of inquiry in the police and the commissioners brought to book without really any meaningful interventions from either the police minister or the president. So we have seen also the during the years of state capture, the huge interference, and this was not just around the police as well. It was also the entire security cluster, especially the State Security Agency. These bodies have not recovered, Naledi. And so to be seeing these kind of things is quite interesting. And for General Mkhwanazi to have really decided to come out and say to the country, this is the problem that we are dealing with, and this is why you see your cases in the police systems are not moving, and there were many other developments around that. You will remember even the suspension of one of the Gauteng commissioner, the NPA manager. This tells us that we have a rot, and I'm not sure if the Madlanga Commission, with all these developments, will really be in a position to help out the situation, because the messaging that we are getting from the current acting police minister, the messaging that we are getting from the president himself are really concerning for any citizen. So I think what we need to see is to be assured of the independence of the Madlanga Commission, and also the parliamentary process that is unfolding, to make sure that we hear General Mkhwanazi, that we hear the witnesses, and that we decide for ourselves as a country. But I also think they need protection. We have seen a lot of killings at the moment, not just for the police officers, but for forensic investigators, for people that are dealing with public finances that are coming out to report this issue. It's very scary, Naledi, and I'm not sure how can we really, as a country, stand out and say, we want to resolve this matter without the very clear leadership from the executive at this point in time, because it is lacking by and large.
Yeah, again, coming out of the allegations by Mkhwanazi, we can only expect that what we're going to hear from the commission is going to be even more explosive. And so a big call that's been made for the protection of whistleblowers, for them to be confident enough to come out. We're going to take one last caller. Emmanuel is in Alberton. Emmanuel, good evening. Thanks for calling.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, Emmanuel. Thank you for calling. Go ahead. We're listening.
Okay. Lady, I just have only a small point to contribute.
Yes.
Look at what is happening there are some things that sometimes you do not understand. And you actually ask yourself, is it because our leaders are also participating or part of the whole problem? Now look at this matter, a police issue. We're sitting here, people are killing policemen, and that person gets to the court. That person is jailed 6 years, 9 years. You sit and ask yourself, what are these magistrates and judges eating or drinking? Look at the pain today of our mothers and sisters and kids who have lost their parents.
Yeah.
And I wish government can say this police ceremony, every year magistrates and judges must be there to see the pain of our mothers and sisters going through. You cannot understand what is going on. A person goes and kills a woman of 8 months pregnant. Then he is given 9 years. What is going on?
Yeah, yeah, you know, Emmanuel, the frustration you're sharing with us is shared by so many, and we appreciate that contribution. Today we watched, just as we wrap up, you know, the ceremony to commemorate police that have lost their lives while on the job. Meanwhile, you've got protests that are taking place in the Western Cape over gang violence. And again, the issue of graft within police comes up. How it is that we need to go about fixing the image and the trust that South Africans have, not just in our policing, but in our bigger criminal justice system moving forward.
Well, Naledi, we need to reflect on what Justice Dikgang Moseneke once said. He said that the rule of law is not a slogan to be repeated, but a principle to live by. If you listen to the pain in the voices of your callers, that reflects and it echoes the pain of many South Africans. And we have a very high violent crime rate. It seems as if there's an issue in terms of the structures in our policing that gives people the courage to go out and commit violent crimes and believe they'll get away with it. That needs to stop.
Yeah.
And so I've got experience with Professor Firoz Kachalia. My first job was with him, and he was very brilliant in terms of an administrator. I do agree with the prof that there were a few concerning statements that I heard, but I think that we need to go back to the drawing board and get to the root cause of the challenges that we have the right people in leadership, have the right training and the right people enforcing the law, and then we're going to see a lot of change.
Well, we'll be watching for the root cause of some of the problems that we have from the 17th of September. Thank you so much to you. Thank you to Professor Kidiboni Paro, governance expert with the Northwest University, and Mr. Tebogo Ditshego of Ditshego Media, of course, a media strategist. Let's take a short break. We are back in a moment.